Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us, the Tahoe Regional Young Professionals, or TRIP, in our candidate interview series. We'll be catching up with each one of the South Lake Tahoe City Council candidates and sharing the video footage with you all in an effort to engage the community so they make informed decisions about the upcoming November 4th election. We want to take a moment to let you, the viewers, know that TRIP is an independent organization. And although we do get involved in community issues, including local politics, every effort is made to make an unbiased, provide unbiased information in a timely manner. I'm Jen Boyd, and here with candidate Matt Palacio, and we have a lot to discuss, so let's get started.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jen Boyd.
Thanks for being here. Tahoe Regional Young Professionals represents a generation that wants to make their future in South Lake Tahoe. How do you plan to help your constituents who are trying to follow their careers and raise a family here?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks again for having me. And as a member of TRIP, I really think that I fall into that segment that's trying to make a life up here. My wife, Jenna, and I moved up originally in 2006. And we moved up kind of on a whim, didn't really know what we were going to do or where we were going to go with our careers up here, but kind of fell into the local scene. And after a few years, we realized that the advancement wasn't really there for us, and it might be time to look elsewhere. So after a few years down in Santa Cruz, we realized this is great, but we think Tahoe is better, and we're willing to move back there and try to become agents of change in our community. And being up here now and being part of the Leadership Lake Tahoe and also being part of this city council campaign, I'm trying to get more actively engaged and have a voice for the people that are a part of our generation, because I kind of feel that's missing right now within city council and also within other leadership in our community. You look around and there's not too many people our age. There is a few people that age, what I consider 45, 55 down to 25, but there's not too many of them. So with me being on city council, I think that's a great way for people our age to look up, see somebody up there representing them, and somebody they feel is approachable and somebody that they can communicate with and will actually listen to them because they can empathize and know what it's like to be a young professional in our community.
What opportunities do you see for families trying to move here? What would be your talking points or selling points to get a young family to move here and tell them that there are opportunities?
Yeah, I would say that South Lake Tahoe, I think it's kind of been overused a little bit, but to beat the cliche a little bit, we are undergoing a renaissance. I could point to all the different improvement projects that have happened recently in our community, and I could point to the amount of engagement in our community as well within our generation. TRIP is a great example of that, of just saying, hey, people are actively engaged. There is finally some momentum. We finally have a clear RPU with the TRPA, which has always kind of been that hindrance for us, and things are moving forward, and we need more younger voices in the community to help us get over that hump a little bit and become that world-class destination we can be.
Excellent, thank you. South Lake Tahoe's voter record was at an all-time low in this last election. As a candidate, how do you view voter apathy in our town, and why is this election important for voters to participate?
Yeah, if you look at the overall statewide election, it was down statewide. It was down across the board. And so I can't really say that this is something that is specific to South Lake Tahoe. You look at why it was down, and a lot of people think Jerry Brown's going to win in a landslide against Neil Kashkari. So do you actually go out and vote for that? There wasn't a whole lot of propositions as well to bring people to the polls. Usually special interest groups will put a proposition on the ballot to try to spur the vote. Right now, we do have a few great local measures that hopefully people will come out and vote for, including Measure F for the city or for the community college. So I do think we will see some people turn out for this vote because it is an actual midterm election rather than that pre-election that we had a little bit earlier in the year. But as far as apathy goes and how to get people engaged, I think it's just better communication. I'd like to see the city use their social media channels a little bit better and try to actually have more of a strategy of how they're communicating to people and look at, hey, who's actually liking this page, and try to gear their information towards that. I keep bringing up also the issue of infographics as well. When you have a 100-page document released about the future of our city, that's great. That covers the legal requirements for a city to actually fulfill. But putting a one-page infographic or two-page infographic of, if we get this money, we can build this. If we raise this money here, we can do that. We need this many people to show up to move this thing forward. Just simple information that is the way that, you know, a younger generation likes to digest it, which is, you know, through a very easy to understand, visually graphic-based information.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. The South Lake Tahoe's unemployment rate is slowly improving, but how can City Council address our town's underemployment? How can we bring more career opportunities to local professionals with the right experience or skill set?
I honestly think that is something that has plagued us for some time, and it's kind of something that we're known for, but I'd like to see us get away from it if at all possible. And I think one of the really good ways that you could do that is to be really good at your core competency. And you look around at what South Lake's true economic drivers are. We have the local community college, Lake Tahoe Community College, but the other main driver of our economy is tourism. And I really think that by focusing in on that and trying to be the best that we can at tourism and trying to bring visitors to our region, we will then be able to attract younger families and people who want to move up here. You know, I look at my friends down in the Bay Area, my friends in Sacramento, who would think about moving up here, but and they know, yeah, there's a lot of great recreation, but they're not so thrilled about the restaurant scene. So what can we do about that? Because you got to think that the people who live here, like myself and yourself, we like to enjoy everything that is out there that our visitors like to use as well. So I think by improving all of those, it'll make South Lake appear more presentable to people who want to move up here.
What are some, as a potential city council candidate, what are some of the examples that you would do to improve some of the recreation and dining? Do you have some specific ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the recreation master plan, the draft came out recently, and I like to bring up, you know, when you look at the recommendations, here's something that can happen between 0 and 1 years. Here's a 1 to 5 year timeline. Here's a 5 to 10 year timeline. So, you know, you look at rebuilding and restoring our bike paths and putting better signage out there and actively promoting that as a city and also through the LTVA or Visitors Authority. I think that's something huge that could let people know that there is a way to get through our community using the highway as little as possible. Even though there's a bike lane, there's a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, it is a national highway. We need to get away from that. I've spoken to my friend Kim Boone at Riva Grill, who is a sales manager there, and she keeps bringing up a possible restaurant association up here in South Lake Tahoe. As a tourism destination, it's kind of shocking that we don't have one of those already. You know, being a part of the restaurant scene in the Bay Area and also in Sacramento, there's restaurant associations there. I think we should have one as well. And so they have better collaboration as far as, hey, what niches do we need to fill? Hey, how can we, you know, highlight special events for the, you know, the shoulder seasons to bring people up? I think the Sample of Sierra is a great idea. Maybe try to capitalize off of that as well and keep that theme going through the fall season. So it's a few ideas I have.
Perfect, thank you. Moving along, we, at the recent candidate forum, a question was asked pertaining to engaging the Latino community in the local policymaking. The question, as well as a couple others that came about in the forum and kind of as a whole, were publicly referred to as racist following the event. Do you think that's an indicator of racial tensions or disconnect from South Lake Tahoe's ethnic diversity?
You know, that's a really good question. As somebody who is of mixed ethnicity, mixed race, if you want to put it, my grandparents being from Mexico, I'm sensitive to that. However, I didn't think that it was racist at all. I think you need to embrace the varying cultures that we have living here, as well as the varying cultures that choose to come here and spend their vacation dollar up here in South Lake Tahoe. So I think by acknowledging that we do have diversity in this community, that's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward as a community, rather than thinking everybody is all the same, everybody likes to do the exact same things, and so we just create one game plan for everyone. I totally disagree with that, and I think you need to embrace the amount of diversity that we have here. A lot of people think that, you know, South Lake Tahoe is a majority one race, but when you look at it, it's very diverse. So I would like to see the city, we have so many different committees as part of the city of South Lake Tahoe, but can the city either spearhead or help to contribute to a diversity committee to embrace the fact that we are such an amazing, diverse community that has all these people living here? we're a mountain town where, the service workers live next door to the doctors that live next door to the lawyers that live next door to the guy that's teching your skis in the winter. And we need to embrace that. And how we get there is something that I'm looking forward to being a part of.
You mentioned a few kind of ideas of these commissions. Do you have a few more examples or different ways that in your first 90 days what you might do if elected to start getting those different groups involved and how to communicate with them?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple quick ideas. I look at the golf course, and this is nothing against the Tahoe Chamber for putting the forum on. I was incredibly overwhelmed to have that opportunity to speak to the public, but there wasn't really any public transportation there, and we continue to hear that our Latino community relies on public transportation or bikes to get to and from work. And that comes from everybody in the community mentioning this. So how do we bring forums to the the state line area as well, down to that corridor? You look at the Lake Tahoe Community College and all the clubs that are there. Can we possibly start some internship programs to help or to bring college students to the table to hopefully get them to help flyer certain communities where we feel are being underserved or underrepresented, say, hey, come to this town hall, we're doing this. Maybe bring out multilingual people as well in all sorts of languages so we can bring everybody into this conversation, because as citizens of not only the city of South Lake Tahoe, but California and the United States, we all have a say in how we want to see our community move forward. And it shouldn't just be isolated to a few small voices.
Excellent, thank you. Moving along, we're in a little hypothetical here. If the US 50 South Shore Revitalization Project, or Loop Road, is approved to move forward, how would you work with other city council members to implement it and address some of the concerns about displaced residents?
Yeah, this is definitely a big issue in our community, and I know that it's been a hot button issue for a number of years. Probably about as long as I've been alive. I just turned 35, so I don't know how long it's been on the table, but I know it is a hot button issue up here in the basin. And I think a collaborative effort between council members is vastly important. I think once again, reaching out into the communities, be it through volunteers, through interns, is a way to do it. And then also trying to have as many community meetings as you can to bring everybody to the table. I like to point to the Tahoe Valley Area Plan as a way that the city has gained the public's trust as to how they would like to move forward with this. Certain height restrictions. What will a 3-story building look like in the Tahoe Valley area with a step back approach to it, so it still looks like a 2-story? But I think by having multiple meetings, having little workshops and breakouts is vital to let people know this is the plans, this is why we want to move forward. Listen to people's feedback. Not everybody is going to be happy about it, but I strongly believe that the greater good is what is the most important thing, and sometimes the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And my heart goes out to people who are going to be displaced, but I would think that the city council would do everything in their power to make sure that housing was found for those individuals.
You want to touch a little bit more on the housing issue, because that's where I understand maybe the city has more of a role, and we'll talk about that a little bit later too. But
yeah, I've met a little bit with Joanne Connor and a little bit with Hal Cole and a little bit with Brooke Lane as well, 3 of our current city council members, to try to get a better handle on the housing situation. And I don't have all the information on that right now, unfortunately. I do know that it is an issue, and it's one of those things where we're not just going to move forward and put a brand new reroute of the highway without figuring that out first. So I don't have all the details on me right now, but I'd love to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Looking at the redevelopment theme, what would be some of your decision-making process for the redevelopment of the South Lake Tahoe Airport?
They've done quite a few feasibility studies on the South Lake Tahoe Airport to see what it would be like to bring commercial air service back into the airport. And really what it comes down to right now is it would need a multi-million-dollar subsidy to become economically viable. And who's going to subsidize it? We, the taxpayers, don't want to do it. I'm sure the casinos don't want to do it. So we've got to figure out a better way to utilize that space. I do think that making sure that all of its BMP upgrades are up to date is vitally important. There's a large amount of land out there. Can we possibly do some mixed use redevelopment out there as well? Maybe some maker shops out there, and maybe try to make it a gateway to our community, because right now it doesn't seem like it's being properly used, but there's a lot of space out there that we can use. You know, shifting gears and talking about the airport a little bit, you know, we keep talking about the project in the middle of town where we want to revitalize the campground and the recreation center. I personally would like to see City Hall move to the center of town so people from the Bijou community, from the Al Tahoe community and beyond can actually walk to City Hall, and then we'll have even more space within the airport with which we can use for other services that we can collect revenue on. I've also heard Nancy Carey mention that a city of our size doesn't really need to fund an airport. And so why don't we reach to our neighbors in El Dorado or in Douglas County, and also our friends in El Dorado County that we are a part of, and see if they can help subsidize that airport as well, because everybody's benefiting from it. And I think we should all be able to pitch in and help out with it. It's one of our best resources for fire safety, and it is a necessary part of our community. So I think you know, making sure that we make the most out of it is vitally important.
Thank you. Well, the City Council recently voted to delay the final phase of the plastic bag ban in South Lake Tahoe. If California passes a statewide plastic bag ban, how would you recommend the city roll out the plan after its recent opposition?
You know, the city's laws are trumped by the state's laws, and I would need to read that bill a little bit more to find out the implementation of the actual bill. You know, a lot of bills, they get passed, but then you have a little bit of leeway and time with which then to put them into place. And the reason for that is you have to kind of get your ducks in a row and make sure that all the necessary fines, penalties, enforcements, buy-in are all in place. But I would be a champion of us moving forward as swiftly as possible. As I've mentioned in previous speaking engagements, I firmly believe that the city of South Lake Tahoe needs to be an environmental steward, and we also need to be the ones taking the lead on this, because when you're somebody who lives here, you should have a sense of pride. Yes, my community is doing everything possible to take care of the mountains, the streams, the rivers, and our beautiful Lake Tahoe. And as a visitor, a lot of visitors want to know, is this a green community? Is this a sustainable community? You know, I used to sell a hotel in Santa Cruz, which is a very green-minded community. They have the whole Pack Your Trash campaign. I was able to win a few groups just by making sure that I was promoting our hotel as a green certified hotel, that we'd switched over all of our cleaning products, we'd redone our lights, we'd had wastewater management in place. I could send out a little report to them. People want to know this, and people want to know that their dollars are being spent in a place that actually cares about the community or the environment, excuse me, not just, hey, this is pretty, but what are they doing to keep it beautiful?
Exactly.
So.
Thank you. I kind of want to go back. I know you said you'd have to look into it a little bit more, but maybe what are some ideas that the city can do to address the lack of low-income housing in South Lake Tahoe?
The low-income housing in South Lake is a really tricky subject. You know, when we actually had a redevelopment agency, which was dissolved by the state of California, low-income housing was put into that mix. So if you redeveloped here, you needed to make sure you did low-income housing over there. If you put money in over here, you needed to build housing over there. So I like to point to Aspen's West as basically one of those last projects that we're going to see because of that, which is on the corner of Ski Run Boulevard and Pioneer Trail. But I do think the city can still play an integral role in that. You know, we're sitting right now on some TAUs, which are valuable. It's a commodity up here in the basin, the tourism accommodation unit. And so could we possibly sell those to the north side of the lake? They're in desperate need of those in certain communities. It's kind of a cap and trade type system. And then possibly buy some land for somebody to develop for maybe not necessarily quote unquote low income housing, but multi-unit housing that could be priced accordingly and is in neighborhoods where we need a little bit more of that as well, where you have lots of job opportunities that don't require a car. So that'd be one idea that I would have. And you know, if I was to get on city council, I'd like to know how many of those TAUs are we sitting on and what are the plans for them, and you know, not stockpile them, but use them accordingly.
Thank you. Looking at vision, a couple of years. What do you envision South Lake Tahoe to look like in 5 years?
5 years, I'll be 40. um, in 5 years, I would like to see the city of South Lake Tahoe be the envy of many mountain communities. When we moved away to Santa Cruz and we decided to move back to South Lake Tahoe, a lot of friends asked me, from outside of the area, of course, why South Lake? You know, you should probably move to North Lake. It's the nicer side of the lake, and I've never agreed with that. I've always felt like our built environment was really pulling us down, because when you look at the basin of Tahoe, we are flat mainly on our side. Yeah, we have some hills. I live in Gardner Mountain, but you can ride your bike all over our basin. Our trails are second to none. We have some of the higher peaks just to the south of us. I think we have the best beaches. I mean, sandy beaches in Tahoe is amazing. So I think we have all those natural assets inherently built in, but we've just always relied on those, and we've kind of lagged behind on our built environment. So what I would like to see is us continue to remove some of the older structures that we have in place right now along the Highway 50 corridor and beyond, ones that have been vacant, ones that are polluting into the lake because the BMPs aren't up to date, replace those with more modern buildings, and make our whole entire highway frontage beautiful, attractive, and the envy of other communities. And in 5 years, I'd like to see articles of South Lake Tahoe's revitalization in all the ski magazines that I'm required to read for my job, and see that in USA Today, see that in the Chronicle, and just become that town that has a lot of buzz, that people are attracted to move towards. People feel revitalized and encouraged to stay and see us through our redevelopment, and see us through to the other side of, wow, this is the best place to live. I can't believe I live here. I'm so blessed and I'm so lucky, and that's my vision for this town.
Great, you've touched, we have a little bit more time, so we'll dive in a little bit deeper. You've touched on the redevelopment, environmental, income housing opportunities. And what are your top priorities that you would see if you were?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a three-pillar approach, if you will. I always like to touch on recreation. I think recreation is vitally important for you know, the people that live here, the residents, as well as the visitors. I was at a movie premiere just this last Saturday up at Himmel House, and I was talking to some people who had moved here about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and still didn't know about all the recreation opportunities in town. We're just finding out about mountain bike trails that I've known about for years, but you kind of had to hear about it. Everything was kind of like a little hush-hush secret. So, you know, actively promoting that recreation destination of, hey, world-class mountain biking, you know, world-class hiking on the Tahoe Rim Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, everything that runs through here, and then just really promoting all the water activities that we have as well. I also like to touch upon the environment, because I think during the recession we got to see that the environment and the economy are intertwined. It's no longer a conversation of which one is more important. They're going to rise and fall together. If we have a faltering economy, the environment's going to suffer, because then we have unkept buildings that are no longer occupied that are going to start to pollute the lake, and we're going to have dilapidated houses that are going to do the same, and things are going to fall into disrepair and into blight. So we need to be able to take care of our environment through having a robust economy, and I think all of that relies on that tourism engine that I keep coming back to. You know, as a senior sales manager of Sierra Tahoe, I know that winter plays a large part here in the basin as far as our economy and job creation, but I know that our summer recreation and tourism is exponentially bigger than our winter. And so we need to figure out how to be the best of that we can be. We need to stop apologizing for being a tourism-based destination, embrace who we are, accept it, bang the drum that, hey, we're here, we would love to see you up here, Sacramento, Bay Area, LA, England, New York. Please come to us, because we're ready to help you out, show you a great time, and hopefully you come back here as well.
Thank you. You mentioned there in the last little bit some of the blight that we're seeing. As a city's role, what are some of the ideas that you have that can maybe help alleviate some of that? Yeah,
I think attracting the right developers within our community, and I also think attracting developers from outside of our community is the city council's role. What developers, no matter where they come from, be it here in the basin or outside the basin, they want to know that they're working with a city government that is going to provide a predictable outcome. And what I mean by that is a government that is going to say, yes, please come. Yes, we're going to remove some of the restrictions to get you to rebuild. Here's a little bit of incentives, and not hear from a few naysayers and say, you know what, we're not going to move forward, because that is not only going to ruin it for those developers, they all talk and they're going to say, hey, don't work with those guys because they want to go down one road and then they decide to go down another road. And you can't be wishy-washy. You need to say, yes, we want to do this, we want to move forward. I brought up the TAUs and possibly selling those to the North Shore for low-income housing. I think you could also do that as well for buildings here in town and purchase parcels of property, and then try to attract businesses that you would like to see come in there as well and say, hey, we're looking for this, who would like to build it, do a request for proposal type thing. So I think you have a couple different options there where you're friendly to people who want to help us rebuild our town, and then also use the city's coffers and its TAU stockpile to also spur redevelopment of our community.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the city's role of being able to enforce some of these different properties and different codes? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I have some knowledge of that I'll try to touch on. I'm not the most familiar with it, although it is a pet peeve of mine, I will say. When we went through the Great Recession, the city was tasked with just cutting. So at one time, we didn't even have a fire chief. We had a public safety chief who was the police chief and the fire chief. We got rid of a true code enforcement position and then lumped that in with the police. So if you're the police and you've got a traffic accident here, you've got a call for domestic violence here, and you found out that somebody's drunk driving over here, oh, and this guy's putting too many t-shirts out over here, what are you going to do? Where's your priorities? So I had a great chat with Hal Cole the other day, and he told me that they are going to start doing quite a bit of enforcement on the motels that are starting to act as a de facto low-income housing, and make sure that everything is up to snuff there. And I think they're going to start working in the casino corridor and then start to work their way out of there. But I would like to see more code enforcement, because we're all going to rise and fall by the standards of the person who's at the lowest rung there. So we need to make sure we bring those people up, explain to them why we have these codes. We need to explain why we want our town to look a certain way, and hold people's feet to the fire to make sure that they get it there. Because in the end, what our cityscape looks like, our streetscape looks like, is a direct reflection on us, and it's going to be a direct reflection on the visitors that choose to come to our community as well.
We're just about out of time, so I just want to give you a chance if you want to elaborate on anything that we discussed today or had any more final thoughts before we wrap up.
Well, thank you for your time today. I thought this was a great chat, and I look forward to more chats with other people in our community. But I look at myself as not necessarily running just for me, Matt Palacio. I'm running for the entire community, and I'm running for people who want to see a little bit of a change, a little bit of a fresh perspective in leadership on city council. And I think I bring that. I'm somebody who loves to collaborate. I work for John Rice up at Sierra Tahoe, an organization that a lot of people respect. But what they don't understand is that John does not push from the top down. He considers himself a servant leader, if you will. So he wants to know everybody's input on the way they think the mountain should be run and the best way forward. That's something that I've taken with me and done through various things, be it the Leadership Lake Tahoe Summit and other parts of my life as well. But that's what I want to do on City Council, is not say, this is the best way, let's do this, but I want to hear everybody's voices, try to pick the strongest voices and the best ideas for how we should move forward. And I'm excited for that opportunity, and we'll find out in early November if I do get that opportunity to serve on City Council.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll wrap up this interview. You can keep in touch with Trip on our Facebook page and on TahoeTrip.org. Thanks for watching, and remember that your vote matters. Please register and encourage your family and friends to register, and let your voices be heard in the November 4th election. Thank you.